Chapter 277, The Power Test. This chapter is updated by Novels.pl. Lei Jing glanced at Zhang Yuochen and Luo Shuaihan, and then sat on the side. He closed his eyes for a rest. The silver-gowned elder returned to his original position and tried to compose himself. Time for the power test. Who's first? Me. With tremendous confidence, Zhu Qingshan went to the testing stone wall. He mobilized his genuine qi and hit the stone wall with one palm. Bam! 7 silver lines emerged from the stone wall. Zhu Qingshan frowned slightly and shouted out, "Heaven's might palm!" Bang! With the second hit, 1 golden line and 4 silver lines emerged from the stone wall. The silver-gowned elder announced the results. Zhu Qingshan, your first hit unleashes the power of 0.7 brute elephant. Your second hit unleashes the power of 1.4 brute elephants. You have passed this round and can prepare for the next. The power that the weakest heaven realm could unleash was equal to the power of a brute elephant. The test of the Earth Board was very strict. Only when a warrior reached the power of a savage beast, could he or she pass the first round. 1 silver line represented power 1/10 that of a brute elephant. 1 golden line represented power of a savage beast. Zhu Qingshan felt satisfied with his power. He stared at Zhang Yuochen, showing a tinge of condescension. With the power of 1.4 brute elephants, one could contend with the weakest warriors of the heaven realm, barely reaching the level of the myth of martial arts. His arrogance really relied on his abilities. Now it was Tu Jin's turn. Tu Jin's first blow unleashed the power of 0.8 brute elephant without any martial technique. Tu Jin's second hit used a fist technique that could burst great short-term power. He unleashed the power of 1.9 brute elephants. In terms of power, Tu Jin was much better than Zhu Qingshan, so he also passed the first round. Who is next? The silver-gowned elder asked. Zhang Yuochen was quite gentlemanly. He turned to Luo Shuaihan with a posture of please and said, "Senior sister apprentice, you go first." Luo Shuaihan nodded. She walked to the place below the stone wall. Everyone's gaze turned toward her. Luo Shuaihan was too young. It was nearly impossible to pass this test at her age. However, Zhang Yuochen had confidence in her. He knew she had powerful strength. Luo Shuaihan stood below the stone wall. Her graceful posture made her look like an elegant orchid. She unleashed a 1-inch punch on the stone wall. It was obvious she wasn't trying too hard. Bang! 1 golden line and 8 silver lines emerged from the stone wall. Tu Jin and Zhu Qingshan, who had expected to show off in front of her, gazed in awe, with incredulous expressions. How could she be so powerful? Tu Jin sounded as if he was being strangled by someone. Zhu Qingshan was breathless. Oh my god. She unleashed the power of 1.8 brute elephants with just 1 little punch. It was astonishing. How strong could she be if she used martial technique? Even Lei Jing, who sat to the side, had opened his eyes and watched Luo Shuaihan. She is worthy to be the prominent successor of the Saint family Luo with that power. Not to mention her cultivation hasn't even reached the completion of the Earth realm. She has huge potential. Luo Shuaihan drew back her hand and a white glow emerged from her body. As she threw her punch, the roar of rushing rivers rumbled in the air. It was deafening, as if the air was vibrating. That's Luo Shui fist technique. Zhang Yuochen stared at the track of her fist technique with wide eyes. Boom! There came a loud noise. On the stone wall, 9 golden lines and 9 silver lines emerged. It represented the power of 9.9 brute elephants. Tu Jin and Zhu Qingshan could barely breathe. Their attitude towards her changed, or appeared in their eyes. She was not the kind of girl they could flirt with. Even the silver-gowned elder was quite taken aback. He stared at Luo Shuaihan as if she was a monster. After all, she was so young, yet she could unleash power much stronger than many warriors of the heaven realm. Zhu Qingshan, your first palm unleashes the power of 1.8 brute elephants. Your second palm unleashes of the power of 9.9 brute elephants. You have passed this round and can prepare for the next. The elder announced the results. So she is the god's favored daughter from the saint family Luo. No wonder she is so powerful. Zhu Qingshan had become suddenly enlightened when he heard her name. It is said that Luo Shuaihan has exceeded 4 realm fighting geniuses, not to mention people like us. Tu Jin sighed. The silver-gowned elder stared at Zhang Yuochen. Next one. At this moment, Lei Jing said in a deep voice, "I want to test him by myself. Please leave now." Although he showed no fury, he emanated majesty. What? A high level from the school of the martial market wants to test the boy in person, as if there is any chance his aptitude is superior to Luo Shuaihan's? Tu Jin was surprised. How is this possible? Luo Shuaihan has high achievement because of her talent, the training of the school of the martial market and her Sent family. Other warriors are not lucky enough to have such conditions and resources. Zhu Qingshan said coolly. Tu Jin, Zhu Qingshan, Luo Shuaihan and even the silver-gowned elder went out of the secret room for the power test, leaving Zhang Ruoshan and Lei Jing inside the room. Lei Jing fixed his eyes on Zhang Yuochen and asked, "That God's favored daughter from Luo family is truly mighty. I was far inferior to her at that age. Are you stressed out now?" Lei Jing assumed Zhang Yuochen and Luo Shuaihan were neck and neck. Perhaps Luo Shuaihan had gotten one step ahead of Zhang Yuochen. After all, Luo Shuaihan was the disciple of a saint family. Some of the resources she had could never be reached by Zhang Yuochen. No, Zhang Yuochen went directly towards the testing stone wall. He mobilized his genuine chi and let it flow in the 36 meridians. Bam! As soon as he hit the wall, a thundering bang was heard. 4 golden lines and 8 silver lines emerged from the stone wall. To test the limit of his power, Zhang Yuochen had made a complete effort without reservation. The power of 4.8 brute elephants. Lei Jing immediately stood up from his seat. His eyes were wide open. He was deeply shocked. It was a mere hit. He hadn't used any martial technique. Under the same circumstances, Luo Shuaihan could only bring out the power of 1.8 brute elephants, less than half of Zhang Yuochen's level. Looking at Zhang Yuochen again, Lei Jing finally realized that Zhang Yuochen's composure throughout the test was actually because of his great capabilities. He burst out laughing. Zhang Yuochen nodded with satisfaction. After refining 10 refined physique elixirs, he had reached the level of mid-stage warriors of the Heaven Realm in terms of body power. Otherwise, there's no way he could have unleashed the power of 4.8 brute elephants. Lei Jing hadn't been this excited in a long time. He urged Zhang Yuochen to continue. "Show me your second punch now." Zhang Yuochen's eyes became brighter and brighter. 2 fireballs burned within his eyes. He threw his punch and left 7 handprints overlapping in succession. They came together with 7-fold power. Boom! The stone wall shook slightly. 3 black lines, 2 golden lines and 2 silver lines emerged from the stone wall. It represented the power of 32.2 brute elephants. Although it didn't reach 7 times the power he'd reached the last time, it was pretty close. This hit astonished Lei Jing even more. The power it unleashed could easily kill warriors at the initial stage of the Heaven Realm. Warriors like Tu Jin and Zhu Qingshan couldn't survive one hit. Lei Jing flushed and said, "What a boy. The palm technique you used must be a martial technique among the superior class of the spiritual stage." Although Zhang Yuochen hadn't mastered the 5th movement of Dragon and Elephant Prajna Palm to succeed, the power it unleashed was greater than martial techniques among the superior class of the spiritual stage. Exactly. Zhang Yuochen answered Lei Jing with a smile. The Dragon and Elephant Prajna Palm was a martial technique that could develop in the process. Since Lei Jing regarded it as a martial technique among the superior class of the spiritual stage, Zhang Yuochen didn't bother to explain it. The more he explained, the more trouble he might get. Lei Jing laughed. "You have the ability to compete with the top 100 warriors of the Earth Board. No wonder you came to this test. I underestimated you. To rank in the top 100 warriors of the Earth Board is not easy. I have to test my speed and actual combat before getting the final results." Zhang Yuochen said, fully understanding the difficulty in ranking among the top 100 warriors. Lei Jing nodded his head. But at least Zhang Yuochen held great promise, while others didn't. "Time to test your speed. Let's go." Lei Jing composed himself quickly. Yet at the same time he looked forward to seeing more. Zhang Yuochen was definitely a surprise to him. Tu Jin and Zhu Qingshan were already waiting in the secret room for the speed test. When they saw Zhang Yuochen come to the room with Lei Jing, They were astonished. They guessed that he had passed the power test. But how could this be possible? Luo Shuaihan was the only one who seemed calm. She had expected Zhang Yuochen to pass the test. She even suspected that Zhang Yuochen had surpassed her. Otherwise, Master Lei wouldn't have tested him alone. All three of them had finished the speed test while Zhang Yuochen was doing the power test. Tu Jin's fastest speed was 205 meters per second. Zhu Qingshan's fastest speed was 219 meters per second. As for Luo Shuaihan, her fastest speed was 248 meters per second. One could pass the test as long as his or her speed was over 200 meters per second. So they all passed the speed test, and could now prepare for the final round test of actual combat. Lei Jing waved his hand and said, "I want to test Zhang Yuochen by myself again. You guys can go outside now." Again? Who is this guy? Wait. Zhang Yuochen? That name seems so familiar. Tu Jin frowned. He was lost deep in thought.